But I have to start with Major League Baseball. The two best teams in baseball met up last night for game one of a three-game series, the Dodgers and the New York Mets. The Dodgers beat the Mets last night 4-3 in the first of a three-game regular season series at Citi Field, which is in Flushing Meadows, New York. Funny enough, is actually very close to the site of where the U.S. Open men's tennis Grand Slam tournament takes place every year. So coming into this series, in the eyes of most people dubbed the Dodgers and the Mets the two best teams in baseball. Now, obviously, the Astros can stake a claim in this argument. The Yankees and the Braves are certainly two really good teams as well. But it's no surprise that when we're having this conversation, when we're looking at the two best teams with entering this series, the two best records in baseball, they also happen to have the two highest payrolls in baseball. The Dodgers have the highest payroll, and the New York Mets have the second highest payroll. Dodgers, of course, just collected their 90th win of the season. They're the only team in the majors right now that have 90 wins. They're 90-38. And obviously, we know what the Mets have been able to do entering last night. They had the second best record in the MLB because they lost. They're now a game behind the Houston Astros. So they've got the third best record overall in the majors. But to me, when I look at the Dodgers and the Mets, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, and there are a couple main reasons why. The biggest point of contention when you're looking at the Dodgers and the Mets this year has been the pitching staff and the superiority that the Mets have with their bullpen as opposed to the Dodgers. And I do think that there is credence to that argument. Given the injuries sustained at the position for the Dodgers, the Mets, their two best aces are arguably better individually than any individual player the Dodgers have in their bullpen. Again, by name recognition alone. Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, there's no question, are sensational. Jacob deGrom perhaps is the best pitcher in baseball when he's healthy. And it seems like he's rounding into form and that he's healthy. And to be fair, I actually love everything that the Mets have been doing. I think that they finally have an owner in Steve Cohen that is passionate about the team, that's putting his money where his mouth is. And he's invested and he's committed to acquiring elite talent. The fact that he signed Max Scherzer and Marte in the offseason. You trade for Francisco Lindor. You already have Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil both having great seasons. This is a really, really talented group of players and a really talented team. And again, they finally have an owner that's backing the organization. So they've got a lot of great things going for them. And of course, that's what's translated all these wins. But when you bring up the pitching argument, and especially those two pitchers in particular, you have to forget, or I think people tend to forget, that what the Dodgers have been accomplishing this year has been because of a great rotation of starting pitchers. Clayton Kershaw is expected back this week. Tony Gonsolin, who, yes, is missing a couple of games with a strained forearm, is going to be returning in a couple of games. He's had the lowest ERA of his career. The Dodgers pitching staff collectively has the lowest team ERA in the MLB at like 2.83. They're the only team sub 3 with a sub 3 ERA. So Gonsolin is having a career year. He's got the second lowest ERA in the majors, just behind Justin Verlander. He's tied for the most wins with 16. Julio Urias is a top 10 pitcher in baseball right now with his ERA sub 3. He's been absolutely stout and fantastic. He also is tied for the most wins in baseball with 16. And you've got Dustin May, who's starting to round into form, the flamethrower for the Dodgers. Tyler Anderson is having a career year. He's like 12th in the majors for the lowest ERA. So the pitching staff, and especially the starting pitchers, they're starting to come into play for the Dodgers. And again, collectively, they've been absolutely sensational this year. So there's no question that Walker Buehler, undergoing Tommy John surgery, is dealing a major blow. There's no sugarcoating that. He's a spectacular player. There's an argument to be made he's the best pitcher in baseball when he's healthy. But the counter to that is the Dodgers, unfortunately, have had to deal with his absence all year. They've been winning games in spite of the fact that he hasn't been available. And so I don't think that this is all of a sudden a blow in the 11th hour where all of a sudden they're flustered and they have to regroup at the last second. They've had some time to prepare for playing in this season through this gauntlet of a schedule without Walker Buehler. And I think it's safe to say that a lot of other teams from now till the start of the postseason are going to be dealing with key injuries at key positions. So from the pitching standpoint, I don't think it's as large of a gap as people have made it out to be. Secondly, the Dodgers have by far the best offense in the majors. They've got the highest batting average. They've got the most RBIs. Freddie Freeman and Trey Turner, not to mention with Mookie Betts forming a big three, but Freddie Freeman, and Trey Turner, the two of them respectively have the first and second most hits in baseball individually. And we know what Mookie can do both offensively and defensively. But offensively, the Dodgers, again, the most RBIs in baseball. They average 6 runs per game. They've got the 5th best run differential since the modern era, which has been tracking these stats in Major League Baseball since 1900. So the Dodgers offensively, that's what's going to be carrying them. Now, I understand in the postseason, it's all about the pitching. Pitching is heightened. There's a greater sense of urgency and an elevated magnitude to every single pitch. Every single pitch is more closely examined. There's a greater emphasis on it. And that's all true. But I do think that the pitching woes have been slightly overblown when it comes to the Dodgers. And again, we're nitpicking here because we're comparing arguably the two best teams in baseball. But I just think that the offensive prowess and the Dodgers' ability to plate runs against any single team in any situation will prove to be the difference because they are so deep. They are so loaded. They've got the best farm system in baseball. It seems like every single year, all their prospects that they call up, they keep churning out productive elite players that are able to contribute right away, which just isn't something that you can state for a lot of other teams. And it's the reason why ultimately they didn't go all in to acquire Juan Soto to the same degree that the Padres did, is because they didn't want to necessarily just gut their entire farm system. They've done such a great job of developing players, and they still continue to do that. Just look at Gavin Lux and his production and the way that he continues to grow as a baseball player. This is a really, really good team that just keeps finding a way to produce elite both field players and pitchers. Again, Dustin May is a perfect example of a guy that grew up in the farm system that they've developed. Tony Gonsolin, same thing. So, and now those guys are starting to come into form. So I think that despite the injuries that the Dodgers have sustained, I do think that at this very moment in time, and this isn't just a reaction to game 1, the Mets could totally win games 2 and 3. I just think overall, the Dodgers are just a little bit better right now. And even with the injuries sustained, I still think that they're the best team in baseball.